Welcome back to the Traffic Syndicate interview series. I'm Mike Filsame, and on behalf of Jesse Dobeck and Groove, we are proud to bring you our next interview. You're going to meet today Jason Stogsdill. Now, Jason is a huge name in the media buying world, but it wasn't always that way. Jason's going to talk to you about how he left the Midwest for dreams to become an actor, and he went to Broadway, New York, right after 9/11. Things didn't work out very well for him. From there, he decided to maybe help actors with video reels.
He started a business where we shot demo reels for actors.
He started learning how to do Google AdWords, then Facebook. Then he started his own agency, running these ads to find actors who were so successful. One of the people that clicked on those ads was Ryan Gosling. He's going to tell you about that story.
I've always had this itch to just be my own boss.
From there, he started working with clients in the financial space. Some of the legends in the industry, like Fernando Cruz from Legacy Media and Agora, and companies like Porter Stansberry. That led him to be so sought out that people like Grant Cardone hired him. From there, he went on to be one of the most sought after media buying consultants. So today, we're going to talk about his entire journey. You're going to get to know Jason, and you're also going to get to know some of the strategies that he used to hack, that he learned from Justin Brook, to actually use free traffic on social media to get clients all the way up to building an incredible media buying agency. So let's jump right in and meet Jason Stogsdill. So I usually like to start like right around here. You just graduated high school. Now what?
Oh man, you're making me go back really far here, Mike. So, well, I went to college. Once upon a time, I wanted to be an actor, filmmaker. Went to New York. I lived there for 5 years. I'm originally from Kentucky. Nowadays, I live in Mexico City. But after college, I went to New York, tried it in the Big Apple, kind of crashed and burned there.
What'd you do? Was it more stage play or acting school, or did you just struggling actor trying to get roles on commercials?
All of the above. All of the above. And when I was in New York, I actually started learning video because I wanted to create my own projects. And at that time, I thought, well, I need to use these skills to make money. So I started doing corporate videos and things like that. But, you know, I was young in my early 20s.
What year is this around?
I moved to New York in 2002 and I
So
left
right after 9/11.
Yeah.
Right after 9/11.
Yeah, I went there in 2002. I went back to Kentucky in 2007. My daughter was born in 2005. She just went off to college, but I think it was just all too much. I was super ambitious, thought I could take on the world, and I tried. I even started a business then. I started a business where we shot demo reels for actors because I've always had this itch to just be my own boss. Most of the time I just needed to figure out a way to make money. And it was, you know, very clear that a job wasn't going to cut it. So I tried things like that. That business didn't take off, but I learned a lot though. I got a lot of great experience. So I think over time, it's like my experience is built on this graveyard of, you know, failed endeavors, failed businesses, little things I've tried and have built up over the years. But that's, going way back. But I moved back to Kentucky in 2007, sort of started over. My family, my parents are in Kentucky, so they were helping with, you know, raising my daughter. I just needed extra help. It was a perfect storm of just kind of being overwhelmed at that time.
Yeah, I'm going to take a slight detour just to talk about one of the things you just mentioned. You said that, you always wanted to be your own boss. And you're part of many people we're talking to, obviously, in the Traffic Syndicate interview series. And sometimes I bring up to some people, do you think there's an entrepreneur gene? Do you think that you and I have this entrepreneur gene that was there from the beginning? Because it seems, with entrepreneurs, there's so much risk. You went to New York, you were failing, and it didn't seem to bother you. You just said, well, then I'm going to do this. And there are some other people, no right, wrong, or indifferent here. There are some people I think that are just wired with hey, I want to go work at the post office. I want to get my pension. I want to get this. I want to retire, get a house with a white picket fence. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
There's something to that because a girl I went to high school with, she started working at Arby's in high school. And then much later on, up into my 30s, she was still at that very same job she had in high school. So that's definitely not me. Originally, I was okay with having a job, but I couldn't seem to find any jobs that I liked. And I just knew I needed to make money. So I'm kind of a guy who just wants to grab the reins and say, "Hey, I can affect my situation." So there is probably something to it, to that gene, because like with my first business, there were different reasons why it didn't take off, and I was in my early 20s. Like I said, I learned a lot, but also the something weird. It was like the marketing gene, even though I had no prior experience. I just jumped in and started running Google ads. So I ran my first Google ad in 2004, but it just innately within me, I had a partner in the business and I just wore the hat of promoter. Like I knew that was what I had to offer. But the strange thing was I'd never had any marketing experience, but I just kind of, just jumped into that role.
You bring up something, and I want to jump right into that. I think you said Google Ads in 2004. You were just in Manhattan in 2002. So what I want to ask you is, what was that inciting event in your life that made you? And I know that back right around then, I remember there was a company called Overture, and they just came out with this new technology called pay-per-click marketing. And they were putting it above Yahoo, and the next thing you know, Google comes out with AdWords. So it was the big thing. It was one of the first real advertising on the internet, besides just banners flashing at you. I'm curious, how did you give me that inciting event, the thing that happened that made you transition from creating video ads for people that wanted to be on film to suddenly the marketer gene kicks in?
Yeah, at the time we had a business where we were shooting demo reels and audition tapes for actors. And I was just thinking, how can I promote this? We went to a trade show. So it's really just like you would do today. Like if you were selling something, you could say, "Hey, I want to go to a big digital marketing summit." So I knew to do that. And I think I'm just a researcher. I just started researching online and it's like, oh, what's this thing with Google ads? And those were the glory days, because as soon as I turned those ads on and had no clue what I was doing, the phone started ringing. And a weird story, we don't have to go too far into this,
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
actually ended up on the phone with Ryan Gosling when he was preparing for the role of Lars in The Real Girl. So I was just astounded by the fact that you can have this business.
Ryan Gosling, he's Ken
Yeah,
in the
he's
Barbie.
Ken.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
and all the
actually on
other,
the
yeah,
phone with the guy. So
yeah,
his
that super
sister,
handsome, unreal Ryan Gosling.
his sister came in and okay, so this girl, her last name was Gosling. And I said, okay, can I ask? And she said, yeah, I'm his sister. So we did this audition tape for her. And I said, I'm just thinking creatively. I said, you should talk to your brother. Just call him up on the phone, because the scene was her on the phone with his character. So I was like, why don't you just call him and it'll play really natural? And then she said, hey, Ryan wants to talk to you. He's going to like direct the scene over the phone. And he goes, hey, Jason, and I was just like, it's just weird when you put something out on the internet and it kind of bounces back to you like that. So I would say that was a moment where I was like hooked for life. Like I knew whatever I'm doing, I needed to be promoting it in some way.
That was the validation point for you, because it kind of tied the two worlds together. You're an actor, and you know Ryan Gosling instantly, and so you're like, I just did something that got me on the phone with Ryan Gosling. Like there's something here to it. Like it happened overnight, and where do you
Instantly,
go from
just
there?
turning on Google ads and other clients we had. One guy, I forget the actor's name. He was an older actor. He had won multiple Tony Awards. So I really didn't know what I was doing. I just basically had a book. I started learning how to edit video. My partner at the time was doing more of the technical side. So that's some good feedback. And I took that with me, even though the business didn't work out, because I just didn't know how to operate a business. Just got in over my head, took on a bunch of expenses like co-working space at the time. Remember, this is 2004. But I mean, that's some validation. Just very quite simply, not worrying about tracking and all of this sophisticated stuff. Like if you put something out and it gets the attention of someone, because these are real people out there, obviously seeing your ads. So you need to be promoting your business. So that was something that definitely stuck with me, and it kind of illustrates too that you could have a failed business, but it sets you up for success in the future.
It's a stepping stone. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you on the right path. So let's fast forward a few years. You start having some success. What are you doing at this point? Does it transition into a media buying agency or consulting, or are you starting to crack codes in Facebook? Let's start walking through. Meta. Facebook starts coming out. Let's talk about the next 5 years.
Yeah. So if you go from 2007, when I moved back to Kentucky, really all I had that I knew I had was video skills, shooting and editing. So I actually worked in house at a commercial production agency, like shooting local commercials, like cheesy local commercials, right? Because it's just me with a camera going, hey, this is a skill I have, that's not making films. So I was doing that from 2007 to 2008. But the next thing I really got into that got the bug in my head of make money online, it was, I don't know if you remember this, but Site Build It.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There was this website called
sitebuildit.us even. That's how I remember it, I think.
Yeah, it was called Flat Stomach Exercises, flat-stomach-exercises. And her name was Lisa something, but I started studying what she was
Not
doing.
Lisa Sasevich, no?
I can't remember her last name. I'll have to use like the Wayback Machine or something and look it up. But that turned me on to the idea of like Google AdSense, that the whole idea being sold at the time was like, just put this website up and you're going to just have all this passive income for life.
I remember those days. Yeah. There was a few of those different ones. My friend Nate actually had a software that built out these blogs and just created all this content. And you'd put a keyword in, and it just basically created these massive sites back when you could, right? And Google didn't know what was going on, and you just put a snippet of code on, and people were getting checks for like 20 grand from Google.
Yeah. And people were making money. I'm sure I wasn't, though. I think I just wasn't ready, right? You just have to, turn over stones, discover things. And, I started trying to create content and all of that stuff. Then the next person I discovered was Pat Flynn. A lot of people know who Pat Flynn is, and he seemed to bring more of a transparency to it with all of his income reports on smart passive income. So I started studying Pat Flynn, but really what I ended up with, Mike, was just a collection of skills. So the easiest way to monetize the skills was to offer them through like agency services. So I started building WordPress websites, even though I'm not a master designer. It's, I left the commercial agency and started my own digital agency, really just a freelancer who would do anything for you. I'll shoot a video.
Figured out along the way, jack of all trades, master of none.
You want ads, you want video, you want a website, I'll do anything digital for you. So that's kind of what I did for a while after leaving Via Media. And really since that time in 2008, I've never had a W-2 job except for the year I worked with Grant Cardone, which we'll probably get to, but I just had to do that, right? But since 2008, I've just supported myself just with my skills.
So you basically did some agency work. Would you say that obviously you have the skill in video marketing, then you had some skills on building sites. You probably went through the optimized press, and then it became lead pages, and then ClickFunnels, and all those, the generation throughout the last 10 years. But when it comes to video marketing, and then this other block over here of media buying, where would you say your sweet spot went into? Did it go from pay-per-click to Facebook, or a combination of both? Curious.
I sort of went over to Facebook. I went over to Facebook because it just seemed easier.
That's where everybody was.
Yeah, and it seemed easier to understand at the time for me. And I was offering it for local clients and things like that. I dabbled a little bit with Google, but I was primarily in Facebook. And all the way up until, I want to say about 2017, I was just running my agency, working with, lawyers, all kinds of different people doing video, digital, things like that. So
just real world customers.
yeah, real world customers. And I did well for myself, made a great living at that, but sort of hit a plateau, right? Of it's very hard to scale this business because it's me doing projects, and I had freelancers that I could hire as that started to come about, like Upwork and all these things. But sort of got stuck at a certain level. But when I decided to double down on media buying, because before I had no formal training or anything like that, was 2017 when I got in. Justin Brook took me under his wing. I started learning under Justin.
Genius guy.
And I told myself, I'm just going to double down on media buying. And really, it's this kind of narrowing sort of effect of like, I'm going to focus down, but I still had all my skills like with video and things like that. But I decided to focus down on media buying because at that time, I thought, I don't want to have to physically be where the clients are to even go do the video shoots or anything like that. So my goal back in 2017 was just to kind of break away from, because I could go away a week at a time, but I still needed to be on site, meet with clients and things like that. So that was kind of the impetus behind media buying, is like, I could just be all digital.
And you wanted to break away from, basically, you said you hit a plateau. It's basically because of the problems with scale. When you were managing every client, there's only so much time, if you want to have a life, to be able to get on Skype and Zoom calls and work with people and do onboarding processes. And then you were also doing, as we said, jack of all trades. You were doing a little webmaster stuff. You were building funnels. You were setting up their WordPress sites and things like that. And you were like, you know what? If I can just go behind the scenes and just focus on the media buying and let other people take care of the mechanical techie things, and I can just really hone the skills, you can do that from anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. And at that time, I really hadn't figured out how to decouple myself from time, but I decoupled myself from location, because still in 2017, I had clients that were local clients, like a local government, and I had to be there, 2 or 3 times a month. So I wanted to at least detach myself from location restraints, because it's another level, I think, to just be able to work remotely. So that was the goal then. And then, it went on from there.
And so you had said you start working, you're doing media buying now. You want to just focus on the media buying. How did you go about getting new clients for that? Were you introduced working behind the scenes for people, or did you do marketing to get those clients?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I started posting on social media when I would work with a client, just kind of doing the humble bragging, showing the results, doing little case studies. And a lot of it was just, this was a strategy that Justin Brook taught me. He called it tiny apartments, where you just add people on Facebook or LinkedIn. You don't even have to say anything. You just add them. Like if I think I actually added you the other day, not as part of a strategy, but because I need to connect with you. But you add them. And then when you start sharing things that those people find valuable, like if I'm sharing stuff about traffic, you're probably going to notice, hey, this guy keeps sharing traffic tips. And then people start DMing you. It's a super simple strategy that really doesn't cost anything. It's technically a traffic strategy. It's just that you've curated a group of people and you're sharing valuable content. Now, Facebook starts to turn into not for your family and friends anymore, but I'm not a big social media user anyways, aside from business.
Yeah. I think anybody here just heard what you said and they went, what? Facebook for friends and family? No, I'm trying to get reach. Yeah. It was almost like a disconnect. Yeah. The real world is like, trying to find out what their cousin is doing. But for us, we're using social media like we were using LinkedIn. Right. Facebook to us is another form of LinkedIn.
Exactly. And those old friends, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, it's okay. Just don't worry about it.
Well, it's interesting, Jason. My old friends in high school, the old friends in high school in the car business all say to me, how the hell did you do that? What are you doing? I want to fly out. I've literally had people come from California, take drives up. I had one person, I was at an event in Tampa, and I'm walking down and I'm talking just to somebody like you, and we're about to walk into a room, and it's during the break, and about 20 feet away from me, I see a guy looking at me, literally just like this. And I'm like, he's looking at me, and my first thing is like, that's a customer. It looks like he's saying, do I recognize you? And I'm 57 now. So this is about 7 years ago. I was about 50, and I recognize the eyes. And that's all I recognize. And then he smiles as I'm getting up, and he gives me the smile. And I went, John Icavino? And he goes, and he called me Fizzle. He goes, Fizzle, because Fizzle May, all the, back in elementary school. I haven't seen this guy. The last time we spoke was in 6th grade. And then we went in high school, and we didn't talk much in high school. And so somehow he looked me up, and he shows up at an event. And I'm like, because we were really good friends in elementary school. And I'm like, I had this stupid look on my face, like, is this my elementary school friend? And he's like, John. He goes, yeah. And he gives me this big hug. And I was blown away. So it's interesting when you say that your real world friends look at you and try to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But to people who follow, marketing and traffic, it could be the same in any other industry too. You start adding those people, and people that I've added. We have 100 friends in common, and but it's also people I might be interested in following, like copywriters and things like that too, because it's kind of a small world. This whole marketing world is, especially direct response. It sometimes seems like it's a big world, but not really though.
Yeah, it's a tight knit community. If you go to Traffic and Conversion Summit or Funnel Hacking Live, you're pretty much seeing the industry.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? And so I just want to talk about that hack, basically what you were doing that you got from Justin Brook. It would basically be you did something, it worked, you recorded your screen, put on your microphone and said, hey, everybody, today I want to walk you through a campaign that I just created for a client of mine that blah, 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 blah. And you would just put it out there and post it on social media, have a little call to action maybe at the end that said something like, hey, if anything like this sounds interesting to you, feel free to hit me up with a DM, something like that.
Yeah, even without the call to action, because I'll give you one example. I did one of my first clients in the financial industry, which we can get more into that, was investing daily. So I was just kind of thrown into managing third-party email buys. So buying placements on other lists. So I did this video titled "What I've Learned from Managing 500K in Email Buys Every Month." And there was only 10 people on the stream, but one of them was Fernando Cruz, the CMO of Legacy Research. So
yeah, no. So just to interrupt you real quick on this, we have a suite at the Hard Rock Stadium where the Miami Dolphins play. We have a 5-year lease on a 14-person executive boardroom suite, and we get all the home games. So we just got it. This was our 2nd year. Tough year for the Dolphins. They started out so strong. The prior year, I'm at a preseason game. It's the first time we get the booth. I walk in, I open the door. It says Groove right on the corner. We got the 14 seats. They've got food out for us. And I walk downstairs and down the stairs to the seats so that we could start watching the game. And the wall suddenly turns into glass. And as I'm looking down, I hear, and I look over and I see this guy, and he's dressed in like a big Miami shirt down to his knees, a little bit of a beard. And he goes, "You're Mike Filsame." And I said, "Oh my goodness. Like, what is he?" He goes, "Groove Digital, that's you, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "We met before at Rich Sheffrin's house." I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And I said, let me go over and say hi to him. So I go over, I say hi to him. And we're talking a little bit. Doesn't tell me anything other than, yeah, we met at Rich Sheffrin's house or something like that. And I'm telling you, he's dressed like the most blue collar guy you'd ever seen in your life, right? And so when I'm done, I said, hey, you know what? It's like a little picture, you and me. I send it to Rich Sheffrin. Rich Sheffrin responds back to me. He goes, holy bleep, dude, do you know who that is? And I'm like, Fernando. He goes, dude, he's Fernando Cruz from Legacy Media, part of Agora Publishing and, the, what was it? The Porter Stansberry and all this stuff, and just sold the company, and the company sold for whatever hundreds of millions like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, I got to completely rewire my brain there. And he and I have become such good friends because I'm always bringing guests like you, and I always need a 15th and a 16th seat. And he's always got that one extra seat for me. So when you just said Fernando Cruz, I was like, oh my God, that's insane.
He was like one of 10 people on my little live stream. So I think that goes to show you, you don't have to reach
huge
millions of people. And that kind of thing, happens, right? Because my handful of customers, with the prior business back in New York, I'm on the phone with Ryan Gosling. So it's not like I'm, the next Kanye West taking over the internet. It's just like, 10 people on my stream. And then I figured out it was him after I got off there, because I already knew at the time, like he had done a $25 million webinar, like a single webinar with, I forget how many people, but
Yeah.
I believe their company, as a part of the whole umbrella of companies, went public for several $billion. Beacon Street.
Agora.
So
I'm not sure. Yeah, legacy.
that was the next level for me. Like following this theme of how things kept evolving and really narrowing down was okay. So I focused on media buying, but then the next narrowing down was financial media buying. So like with the Agora companies, and for I guess a lot of the listeners, if they're not
When
familiar,
you say financial media buying, you're talking about for investment offers.
Yeah. So for the general public, when I say the Motley Fool, which I didn't work with them, but that's who everyone knows because they're all over, everywhere, right? They get, tens of millions of visits every month, but that's the business model. They're selling investment information to retail investors. And that's when things really took off. And I knew those guys, were spending insane amounts of money on media, all across all the portfolio of companies. But Legacy is the one that I work closely with. And, it was just me narrowing down. So it's media buying.
So you ended up working with them.
Yeah, as they were a client. Yeah.
Well, hold on just a second. All right. I'm going to literally take a picture here. I'll send it to you in just a second. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And I'm going to send this to you and Fernando when we get done. And I'll tell them the little story that we were just doing an interview. And you brought that up. So,
he brought us down to Delray. And at the time we started doing sales on a CPA basis for them because the markets were just great.
And for those that don't know, that means cost per acquisition. You would get paid every time somebody opted in or purchased.
Every time they purchased. Yeah. So
on the front end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he brought us down there when we were doing, I think it was 10 sales a day or a week. And when we got down there, he said, yeah, you guys are on my radar. Anyone making over 10 sales, I think it was a day or a week or something. He's like, you're on my radar. Right. And I think he was just joking. But then he said, anyone who's doing less than that is dead to me. But he brought us down there and, we were, my partner and I, we were at headquarters there, but eventually at our most peak day of sending them sales, we scaled up to doing 1,200 orders a day. Wow. And that wasn't every day, but that was like, I remember the absolute peak because I was counting the stats every day. But
and you were getting paid on it. So
I was like, if he liked us at 10, he probably loves us at 1,200. And yeah, we were getting paid on that. So my business really evolved into doing everything down to media buying, down to working with financial publishers. And we worked with other clients in that niche. But it was kind of a scary thing. And I'd heard this from people. They said, pick a niche, and start turning away clients. And I was turning away awesome clients because I just went all in on financial media buying and just got super, super focused.
You knew the buyer and you got comfortable there, which is okay. I think you really get to hone that. And I don't think you did anything wrong there. I think you just really honed that skill. And then it probably was a little bit easier because you didn't do it too soon to be able to roll it out into other verticals.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a scary thing to do because people have probably heard that advice. Oh, just narrow down, and you don't want to turn away any prospective client. Like if someone has money in their hands, like, no, I don't want to turn them away. But it turned out that was a really good decision. And in 2022, I think it was around summer or so, we actually sold the agency to Strike Point Media, a larger agency based in California. And they've also have been really big in the financial space. So sold that company in 2022. Of course, crypto and the markets were going down. We scaled the company kind of big, had a huge office, probably more than we should have. So it was starting to, become like a lot of pressure. So I'm like, okay, I want to step back and hit the reset button. So after that, I just kind of, dabbled, and I was dabbling in crypto. I didn't really know what to do with myself for a while because I was just like,
Yeah, I think everybody did. It was new, right? It was a fresh thing, and it showed some promise. So I'm going to throw three names at you. Talk to me about them. Jesse Dobeck, Brendan Bouchard, Grant Cardone. Talk to me about how you go from, selling this company, getting out of it, stepping back, trying crypto, and then into the next part.
Yeah, the crypto thing was, I was doing all this financial media buying, and I was reading their newsletters, because if I'm selling someone's product, I start studying the product, and they kind of got me hooked on that. But it really turned into me just dabbling around like a retired person. You sell your company and you're like, I don't know what to do now, so I'm going to dabble around in crypto, and I'm listening to all these podcasts and stuff. But that wasn't really going to go anywhere. It was just me sort of dabbling around, and I met a guy named Matt Lights, who has built massive funnels for Grant Cardone that have done tens upon tens of millions of dollars, like huge funnels.
Into messenger bots.
Yeah, messenger bots. He's built several of his funnels. He's an interesting guy, brilliant guy, super likable guy, but he was, kind of going above and beyond to kind of help them out to like recruit people for their team, right? Because he wanted to see his funnel succeed, because he's incentivized by that, right? The more traffic that's flowing through. So he's a real just, jump in and get things done kind of guy. So he talked me into come working for Cardone. And my role there, I was there for a year. And like I said,
when you say there for a year, working for him virtually, or did you head
virtually
down to Florida? Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And they don't really like virtual employees. Like and Fernando's this way too. He wants you coming down to Delray. They wanted me down there, but sometimes when they just need the right guy, you get to do it your way. Right. So I did it remotely. I was head of traffic. Built a team of 10 there and the traffic team. And a lot of that was recruiting from the people I met through Justin Brooks' network. So I was able to hire people really quickly because I know a lot of media buyers. During my year there, we managed about 25 million in ads, scaled Grant's book funnels up to doing, 1,000 a day, because I've got this sort of gamer mindset.
1,000 books a day.
1,000 a day. Wow. I saw this video the other day. A kid basically broke Tetris, and he got on. He was on the news with the creators of the creator of Tetris. I forgot his name, the Russian guy. But I've got a little bit of that in me too, where I want to break the system. I want to know how high it can go. I'm starting to chill from some of that now, but I just like to know, how high can you go with this, right? So I think
what's interesting about you, just if I could say, Jason, is that's a juxtaposition to your very humble personality. I have something that I identify that with. So I don't look at now. My friends, when I was a kid, used to call me the jock. I was the fastest kid in my school. I was a damn good wrestler, wrestling at 105 pounds. And when I started this thing with the marketing, I was like, I'm going to be one of the biggest guys doing this. But I always carry myself as, just like if we were stepping up to the race, it would kind of be like, if anybody saw it, it would be kind of like George Masvidal when he fought Ben Askren. It was just kind of like little Lasgo. And when that bell rang, he ran at him, did a flying knee, knocked him out in 3 seconds. And I've got something like that in me, where I'm gonna be very, very relaxed and humble, but inside I want to win and I want to take first place. And I'm glad that you just said that as well, that it resonated with you, this kid that broke Tetris, and you want to break the system.
Yeah, it becomes some kind of micro kind of obsession where the business is sort of like a video game, because years ago, a friend of mine and we played the old NBA Jam game on Super Nintendo, and we actually scored so many points in one quarter. we got 105 points in one quarter, and it broke the system. It said block 5. It couldn't even display it correctly. So I like doing weird things like that where it becomes like a video game. But yeah, like I set a goal for 1,000 books a day. On Grant's webinars, we would sign up for live webinars. We would sign up 200K people per webinar. And I just enjoyed that. So I learned a lot working with Cardone, had a lot of resources there, but still this is performance marketing. This isn't just, throwing money to the wind, just for the sake of brand promotion. It was, performance marketing. So, and again, that's sort of in the investing niche as well, because Grant is massive when it comes to real estate. I forget how much assets he has under management now, because it keeps changing and they have to constantly keep updating it, but it's up in the billions. That was a great experience.
Break down your system for someone watching or listening right now, just into 3 things that you're going to do. If you're going to start with a campaign, a funnel, a client, whatever it is, what are the top 2, 3, or 4 things that you immediately say, hey, to make this work, I need the following 4 things?
Yeah. A lot of it's about
whatever it is.
The messaging, right? The messaging. And again, I come from that creative background, and now people have tools like ChatGPT. But it seems like copywriters always have a huge sway over how well campaigns do. I've always been a guy, and I'm wanting to work on my writing, but I've always been a guy who I can think in visuals and sound. If I have a general script, I can portray it the way I want to in a video. And I know you're the same.
Storyteller.
Yeah. And you can do the same too. And it's not like anything that's like a super huge deal. It's just maybe if my copy isn't dialed in, I know I can get the idea across, right? So I always go back to video. But the creative is huge. And then really for me, I always like to just tell people to not be too hard on themselves when it comes to ads, because if you have a business, if you're looking for customers, you need to be getting some type of attention. Like I learned this from Grant Cardone. He would always boil things down to their essence. Money follows attention. Promote.
Yeah.
So he's old school that way.
Grant. Money follows attention.
But you have to ask yourself, if he's kind of old school, which you see it on Undercover Billionaire, where he's just the guy who's like, let's promote. But he's making.
I saw that whole series. It was amazing. Like I got to hand it to him. He went into whatever business it was, and he said, "Hey, we got to do promotions." And people looked at him like he was crazy. Like, "Come on, let's go. We're gonna get out there." And he's on the street with signs and bringing people into the mattress place, whatever it was. You got to promote.
Yeah, and he doesn't. What I learned is he doesn't overcomplicate it, because if you've been around a lot of people who get super complicated with things and just slow things down, with overthinking it. And then you look over at Grant and you go, wait a minute, he's moving billions of dollars and he keeps it super simple. So what I like to tell people is just start with a budget that's no sweat for you. If that's, $5 a day, start with that, run the ads and just optimize. And money that you're okay losing. If you're okay losing $5 a day, $100 a month, for some people, maybe that looks like 10K a month or 50K. But at the end of the day, you're putting a message out. And I don't think everything fully tracks through the way we want to in funnels, right? We can track who opts in and the ROI. But back in my early marketing days, I worked with a lawyer who became a friend, and we did TV advertising, and he was just crushing it, $1 million cases. And, we weren't super sophisticated.
You can't track it. You can't track TV the way you can a tracking pixel, but it just works. You're like, hey, if I'm not, the phone's ringing, something's happening.
Yeah. So I think these days, a lot of people, this is unpopular opinion, I would say, but people get a little too obsessed with all the tech and the tracking, which you should do that. I track everything. But if you look at people like Billie Jean, Grant Cardone, a lot of it's just being creative and putting yourself out there. That attracts customers. So that's something, I would heavily lean on, and advise people, and put out your marketing out there with a budget that is no sweat, because a lot of people don't want to get started if they can just do $5 a day. I just talked to a friend who said, I could put $5 a day towards this. I said, do it and don't worry about the results, in the first month. Just keep tweaking as you go.
And Jesse, how'd you guys meet?
Okay, so Jesse, I actually met when I was at Cardone. He and a partner he had did an audit on our Facebook ads account, and we had elite Facebook marketers, but we were always looking for an edge somehow, because that was the day in, day out for us. And met Jesse and the partner he was working with, and they actually did an audit that really helped us on our Facebook ads account. And after I left Cardone, I'd stayed in touch with Jesse, and we started talking, and started to learn about his story, like with Brendan Bouchard and all the amazing things that Jesse had done, working with Brendan Bouchard from the early days, and other huge campaigns. So then, Jesse and I started collaborating together, as you just become interested in people. Like, I'm super interested in talking to you because of all the things you've done. And, I've seen you, man, I can't remember when I first saw you online, but like, promoting, your just various softwares you've had over the years, then GrooveFunnels. But I think going back to the Ever webinar days. But
yeah, we lit the world up with Ever webinar.
Yeah, you were all over the place then. So you were definitely.
Me and Andy, we were top of the game with Video Genesis, Traffic Genesis, and Genesis Labs, and Webinar Jam, and Ever webinar, and Kartra. We went through that. That was a company I sold, but that we were at the top of the game at that time.
Yeah, lots of iterations for you over the years too, and now it's the whole Groove ecosystem.
So, what's life like today? When I do the interview series like this, I say how blessed you are and I am that we were born just like if we were born 30 years prior, and I'm not talking about whether it would have been Vietnam or the Korean War or something like that for me. What I'm talking about is the only thing that you could do was work local in a factory or cubicle. That's it. And there was no way around it. And I did that for the first part of my career. I went to a brick and mortar place every day and I sold cars. And I worked till the most horrible hours. And so my end game was I'm going to own a car dealership like my dad did. That was like, that would be great, but that was like the pinnacle. There was nothing in the world about working virtually because there was not an electronic world. It didn't exist. You had to get up out of your car and go. And now we have this opportunity, you, me, and everybody listening to us right now, to be able to have this life where we work from wherever we want in the world, work from home in most cases, travel the world. I'm wondering, what's it like for you?
Yeah, for me, I'm in Mexico City these days. I love it here. There. I've been here for about 3 months. And I just love the weather. It's, 70 degrees here. And if people haven't been here, it's kind of like a New York City vibe. It's a big city, but the weather's, 70 some degrees. It's perfect. But I'm kind of a lifestyle guy. When we scaled up Traffic Titans, we bought an office, we bought a Sprinter. I had a fancy watch and all of that, but I'm kind of a minimalist though. I just value my time. I just want to be able to do what I want to do. I think I need to, work just to stay engaged. I want to work on my writing because I think it would improve my thinking. But I just like having control over my day though. And I've got a co-working spot nearby. It's like a 5-minute walk. I got the co-working space just to get out of the house. So there's a museum down the street. I'm kind of that, big city vibe where you can just go do anything you want to do.
Work in a cafe. Yeah.
Go to the cafe. But yeah, that's the lifestyle I enjoy, but it's
I'm with you.
It's the freedom.
When I first started making money, like, oh my God, paid off my debt. Oh my God, I can buy a car cash. I, at one time, had a Hummer, a Corvette Z06, a Lexus LS400, a Nissan GTR, a Lexus SUV, and I had one more thing. A Ford my ex-wife, a Ford F-350 dual-wheel diesel, whatever edition, I forget what the heck they called it. And we lived on a 5-acre horse farm. We had horses and all these things. I literally had like a detailer that would work at my house twice a week, just
Wow.
detailing my cars. And um, today, I have one car. It's a Genesis GV80, which is basically the Lexus of Hyundais, right? It's not a BMW, it's not a Mercedes, not a Lamborghini. I have a golf cart because I live in Boca Raton here and been by Meisner Park. And so my second car is a golf cart. I dress around in t-shirts. I have no watches other than an Apple Watch. And I like to buy, I bought the Apple Vision Pro. There you go. I got the Apple Vision Pro. I pick it up Monday. I've got $1 million studio, but it's for me, it's jeans and sneakers. I went through that phase of, hey, I want to buy things and I want to be cool and everything like that. For me now, it's I know what my toys are. It's mostly Apple products and audio and video and marketing. And like you just said, I want to crack the code to marketing. So I'm so with you on that. That it's it's not about for some people it is the private jets and more power to you. I'm not going to judge anybody, but for me it's like as you just ended it with, it's the financial freedom.
Yeah, because I just turned in a BMW X5 lease. I was always a leasing guy. I had that for 3 years. Got rid of that. Got rid of I had an Omega watch. I liked the watch, but when we owned the office building, so we bought an office building in Kentucky and had renters and things like that. And then we started getting water leaks. I just don't like being responsible for things, and I don't like being responsible for, just stuff that I have to upkeep. We had the Sprinter van that we were, doing kind of fancy things with and taking the team out, but we would also rent that thing out. But then we had a guy on our staff who was a maintenance guy. But then when he wouldn't come in, my partner was out there cleaning it. So I started to figure out that all these things you have just can create more jobs for you. So all I'm interested in is, like you, my toys. My daughter just enrolled at Purdue, and that's not cheap. So, but otherwise, like I'm just not interested in a lot of things. I just like to go and do things. And
Travel and culture. Yeah, I'm with you.
and from being from Kentucky too, it's not really, people aren't that flashy because people start wanting to borrow money from you, right?
Yeah.
So I always like to stay kind of low key. But yeah, I didn't get too far into the toy phase, but I sort of, backed off of it. I'm just more of a freedom guy.
Yeah, my friend John Reese, he was the first guy to ever do $1 million launch in one day, $1 million in a day. He wrote a report about it. One man, one product, 1 million, one day. He learned it from Jeff Walker, and he told Jeff to create the product launch formula. But he said to me when he went minimalist, he said, Mike, remember this: what you own owns you. And man, did that resonate. Like, if you could understand what Biggie was saying when he said more money, more problems, or more money, more problems. It literally means the more things like that you have, it's the more things that can break, have to get repaired, need insurance, constantly got to get the oil change and all those things. And there is something about just simplifying. And I got two more questions for you. The first one's quick. Is that Chewbacca behind you?
I don't know what that is. I don't have, I have, I'm living in an Airbnb right now because I've been here. I was in I've been in Mexico since summer, but it's all Airbnbs. And I
Mhm.
got this one for like 5 months. And, I'm going to have to scout around and see where I want to permanently relocate. But I thought, let me just extend this out. So I don't know what in the world that is, but
I
I thought it
don't,
looked
from my
interesting.
point of view, it looks like Chewbacca. So okay, so you didn't hang that on the wall. And the
No.
last question I have for you is, um, there's a person, we're about to wrap up this interview. There's a button right underneath here. They have a choice to either close this tab or click the button below and register for a webinar. We're going to be doing some training. You'll be involved, the Traffic Syndicate, and more interviews that they could get as well. So I kind of want to do the Dickens effect. You're the actor, you're struggling. What would you say to yourself and the same person listening if the thing that could change your life would be clicking that button and registering? What would you say to that person?
I would say do it because you can't lose. Even if you lose, you can't lose, because I've been talking about the businesses I tried to build that ultimately failed, but I learned extremely valuable skills. And honestly, I've learned it all online. I went to college, I read books and all that stuff, but sometimes people that don't get it, they can sort they would probably make fun of you like, oh, you keep buying these trainings, but it's education. College is, like I said, my daughter's going to Purdue. That's not cheap, but all my wins I can trace back to courses that I've done, and groups that I've gotten involved in, webinars that I've done. I'm a researcher. So just going down rabbit holes and learning, like it's going to pay off, right? So if you're watching this, if you're going to click, you're going to take the next step, you're doing the right thing, you're learning, you're gaining knowledge. Knowledge is power. It's always the right move.
All right, Jason, I want to thank you very much for taking this almost an hour here to talk to us today and being part of the Traffic Syndicate interview series and being part of the Traffic Syndicate as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Wow, what a great interview. I've known Jason for a little while, but it's not until you get to do a deep dive that you find out these things where he used to be an actor. It's quite amazing. I hope you enjoyed this interview, but don't leave just yet. What I want you to do right now is realize you have two choices. You can close this tab, you can click the button below and register for a web class training that I'm going to be doing with Jesse Dobeck. You can see the date and time below. The choice is yours. You can have a butterfly effect moment right now. You could leave this page and go into the universe of unknown, or you can click that button below, enter your name and email address, and make sure to attend a life-changing event. I'm Mike Filsame. This has been the Traffic Syndicate interview series. We hope to see you again. Make sure to click that button below.